Welcome back, everybody, to another Napkin Numbers with the Freeman Lundt team. Scott Lundt again with Rahsaan Freeman. This time, we're just going to tell you about how to get out of your own way. And when it comes to buying a company and letters of intent. So let's get started. Most people, when they start saying, hey, I want to buy a company, and they submit an LOI and they go, oh my gosh, how come it got denied again and again and again? And I keep hearing no. There could be a number of reasons, but what we find a lot from the seller point of view is here's my LOI. I've got some words on it. I did a little bit of research, and then they just kind of cross their fingers. The ones that have stood out to us are the ones that say a little bit more. They say, here's my personal financial statement, because they need it anyways for their bank, right? Here's my resume, which they need for their bank. Here's the statement of why this company is for me, like why I want to run it, what the culture is and how come I'm going to do a good job with it. They put those things all together with their LOI. And that way it shows, hey, look, I'm qualified to close. I'm serious. I'm qualified to operate this thing. I can carry on your legacy. And that's meaningful to a seller to say, oh, this might be the right buyer. They've thought this through. They're not just taking a form letter that they Googled and ran it through ChatGPT and said, oh my gosh, this is amazing. They said, I've thought about this. I've worked in the industry. I have contacts. I can be a good steward of the building or the company that you've built over the years. So those things can be meaningful when you're submitting an LOI. And also having a process outlined, like your own process. Being able to articulate it like, hey, here's what comes next. You sign the LOI. Here's how I'm going to conduct due diligence. Here's what I'm going to want to see. Here's when I'll have a purchase and sale available. This is why my closing date makes sense, right? Because I talked to my lender and they told me it was going to take X amount of days. And so here is today. And here's my due diligence. And here's my financing. And here's my closing. And when I talk to my attorney, the PSA gets done right here. And this entire timeline, I've talked to my deal team. And we just talked about that on the previous episode, having the right deal team. All of these things together, when you combine it and you put that in front of a seller and you can articulate your plan, you can show them how serious and qualified you are, that goes a long way in having a seller say, I'm going to evaluate you with your serious offer with a serious response. And most of the time, that response is, I like you because, or maybe they have a small tweak to it, but there's serious consideration on what you've got. And all of this planning, this having the right team, that all starts to move into what we call deal momentum. And it's a real thing. Rahsaan's going to talk a little bit more about that, but we see it on every deal.
Yeah, momentum is important. I mean, I like to draw a lot of comparisons to sports, right? So if you're thinking of a football game, and the goal for the offense is to move the ball down the field, whether it's yard by yard or in big chunks. But at the end of the day, they're trying to score. Well, it's no different in a business transaction. You want to keep that momentum going, and a team that's got strong momentum, they can't be stopped, right? They're going to get down the field and score no matter what. Well, in a business deal, you got to have the same kind of mentality. You got to keep everybody focused, keeping their eye on the prize, because you'll have times in a deal where it might get stagnant or stale. And that's where a lot of times, deals can fall apart if somebody's not keeping the momentum going. Sometimes you got to step in and be that quarterback. Or if you're the buyer, you got to learn, understand if your bankers or your lenders asking you for information to get you qualified or to continue the process. And they say, hey, I need this in the next couple of weeks in order for us to meet our deadlines. Well, make sure you get it done in those first couple of weeks, right? And you don't need to be, to have the knowledge of your lender or banker. You just need to understand what's going to continue moving this ball down the field. How am I going to contribute to the success of this transaction? Same thing with legal. So much of what we do in the M&A space is timely. And so many deals don't make it on time because somewhere along the line, the momentum gets halted. Sometimes it's by people. Sometimes it's just economically. Things change. Stuff happens. You got to stay on top of it and keep that momentum going in order to get these deals across the finish line in a timely manner.
And that's the name of the game, right? You want to have the deal close. If you're the buyer, you want to acquire the company. If you're the seller, you want to sell the company. But if along the way you're not paying attention to that momentum and you're not being an active participant, intentionally trying to get across the finish line, you're just showing up every day going, I hope, then you run a high probability of having a problem. So we've had situations where we had a seller where the buyer said, here's my purchase and sale. And the seller got busy because guess what? They're running a company. However, you've got a buyer. And generally, when you get in front of attorneys, they get the documents, they review it, they sit down with you, they make corrections, it goes back across. We usually say it takes about a week and a half every time somebody hits the ping pong ball across the net, right? So when it starts taking 2, 3, 4 weeks and it's sitting on your side, then all of a sudden that starts to become a problem. It tells the other side you're not serious, And so if it's work related, if it's personal related, that's fine. We're all people. We understand. However, this has to be one of the most important things that's happening right now for the seller or for the buyer to show that you're serious in moving that ball down the field, like Rahsaan said. Hey, this wasn't a long one, ladies and gentlemen. This was just that public service announcement. Get out of your own way. Make sure you come prepared. If you want to buy a company, be prepared to start it, to finish it, to be enthusiastic, to be involved. If you're selling a company, be the same way. Be excited about it. Be ready to respond. When information comes to you, be ready to say, okay, here's my response. You need something? Let me go get it. That momentum of moving it forward gets everybody excited about the end. There's nothing more frustrating during this process when it could take 90 days, but it took everybody 180 because somebody didn't find it was important. It makes it harder to negotiate. It makes it harder to ask for concessions. It makes it harder to move the entire process when it's been sitting on your side of the fence for 4 weeks. So remember, get out of your own way. Trust your team, but stay involved and be educated about it. If you liked everything here, please like and subscribe. Come back next time. We got more information for you. Everybody have a wonderful month, and we'll see you soon.